The coronary veins. Coronary veins are the veins which are responsible for the drainage of blood from various parts of the heart to the right atrium. Once again, the coronary veins are the veins which are responsible for the drainage of deoxygenated blood from various parts of the heart to the right atrium. In the diagram, you can see the coronary veins and the heart. We will come to this diagram in the last. Now focus on this diagram. This is the blue color represent the heart, the black color represent the posterior side of the heart, while the red color represent the anterior side of the heart or frontal side of the heart. This is the frontal side of the heart. This vein is on the frontal side of the heart. This vein is on the posterior side of the heart or dorsal side of the heart. So on the very posterior side of the heart, the black color vein is available, is present. This black color vein is called coronary sinus. This is called coronary sinus. This is a very dilated form of the blood vessel, which is the largest blood vessel among the coronary veins. This is just like a cavity. That is why this is called coronary sinus. This is called coronary sinus. This is called coronary sinus. This is called coronary sinus because this represent a cavity-like structure. Sinus mean cavity. From here to here, this is coronary sinus, and this coronary sinus is responsible for the drainage of whole blood from various parts of the heart. All the blood vessel, all the veins which are present inside the heart carry blood to this coronary sinus, which eventually open to the right atrium of the heart. This is the opening of the coronary sinus in the right atrium. This opening is called coronary sinus. This opening is called coronary sinus ostium, or you can also call it coronary sinus orifice, but the exact word is coronary sinus ostium. अच्छा, यहाँ तक the coronary sinus ostium. Now you can see that from coronary sinus the blood vessel arise which goes from posterior side to the anterior side. You can see over here in the red color. This in the red color represent the anterior side of the heart. On the anterior side of the heart, this blood vessel, which leads to coronary sinus, the blood vessel which leads to the coronary sinus posteriorly. This blood vessel is called greater cardiac vein. This is called greater cardiac vein. This is called greater cardiac vein. Greater cardiac vein is the vein which is responsible for the drainage of blood from the left ventricle of the heart, from the anterior side of the left ventricle of the heart. The greater cardiac vein is the coronary vein which is responsible for the drainage of blood from the anterior side of the left ventricle of the heart, and this blood goes eventually to the coronary sinus. From the coronary sinus, this blood will go to the right atrium of the heart. This will be deoxygenated blood. Now coming toward the second one, this is the coronary sinus. This is the greater cardiac vein. Greater cardiac vein actually represent from here to here, from this area up to this area, where the diameter become uniform. This is actually the greater cardiac vein is the continuation of the coronary sinus. This is the continuation of the coronary sinus, but the diameter of the greater cardiac vein remain the same up to the last. But the coronary sinus is having a large diameter, a very large diameter. Now coming toward the second blood vessel, this blood vessel which arises from the coronary sinus. This was the continuation of coronary sinus, but this is not the continuation. This is actually the blood vessel which arises from the coronary sinus in the mid area, from the posterior side. Once again, this is posterior side because this is represented in black color. From the posterior side of the coronary sinus, another blood vessel arises which goes to the apex of the heart and into the anterior part of the heart. Through apex to the anterior part of the heart, this part of the heart is apex, and this part of the heart is base. The upper part of the heart is base while the lower part of the heart is apex. So from the coronary sinus, a blood vessel arises posteriorly which goes from the posterior side to the anterior side at the apex. And this blood vessel is called middle middle cardiac vein. Now the middle cardiac vein is responsible for the collection of blood, for the drainage of blood from both ventricles of the heart, from right and left ventricle of the heart, for the collection of deoxygenated blood. Now going toward the third one, this is coronary sinus, this is greater cardiac vein, and this is the middle cardiac vein. And now this represent the blood vessel which arise from the coronary sinus posteriorly. Once again, this is posteriorly. This arises from the coronary sinus posteriorly and goes eventually on the anterior side. The red color represents the anterior side. So this blood vessel is called smaller cardiac vein. Smaller cardiac vein. The smaller cardiac vein is responsible for the collection of blood from the from the right ventricle of the heart. Actually, this is available on the right ventricle of the heart. That is why this is responsible for the collection of blood from the right ventricle of the heart, both anteriorly and posteriorly from the right ventricle of the heart. So this was all about the smaller cardiac vein. Now coming toward this next one. Okay, this is the coronary sinus. Once again, this is the greater cardiac vein, this is the middle cardiac vein, this is the smaller cardiac vein, and this one which is present which this blood vessel, this is called oblique cardiac vein. This is called oblique cardiac vein. Oblique cardiac vein is the vein which is responsible for the collection of blood from the left ventricle of the heart. Actually, this is not from the left ventricle. This is from the muscles of the left ventricle. All of these arise from the muscles of the heart. So this is basically in the left ventricle of the heart. Oxygenated blood is present. So this is not for the drainage of blood from the left ventricle. This is the drainage of blood from the muscles of the left ventricle of the heart. So the oblique cardiac vein is responsible for the drainage of blood from the muscles of the left atrium of the heart, from the muscle of the left atrium of the heart to the coronary sinus. This was this was the oblique cardiac vein. Now the next one. Once again, you can see the diagram. This is coronary sinus, this is greater cardiac vein, this is the middle cardiac vein, this is the smaller cardiac vein, this is the oblique cardiac vein, and this one is the next one. This one represent a blood vessel which drain blood posteriorly. This is also posterior, which drain blood posteriorly from the left ventricle of the heart, posteriorly, not anteriorly. For the anterior, this one is responsible, but for posterior, this one is responsible. So this blood vessel is called posterior vein of left ventricle. The name of this blood vessel is posterior vein of left ventricle. Posterior vein of left ventricle. The posterior vein of left ventricle is responsible for the collection or the drainage of blood from the posterior side of the left ventricle of the heart to the coronary sinus. Now coming toward the next diagram. In the next diagram, you can see, I'm zooming it a little. you can see this one. This is the coronary sinus. In the coronary sinus, you can see over here this one. This is a wall which is present in the coronary sinus, which is present in the opening of the coronary sinus, with the opening of the coronary sinus, with the coronary sinus ostium. This wall is called. This is actually wall. Wall is for the one-sided flow of blood. So this is called Tibetan wall. Tibetan wall. This is called Tibetan wall. Tibetan wall is the wall which is present in the opening of the coronary sinus. Tibetan wall is the wall which is present with the coronary sinus ostium, and it allow the one-sided flow of blood from the coronary sinus to the right atrium. Now this coronary sinus opens during the relaxation of this right atrium, and it closes during the contraction of the right atrium. When the right atrium contracts, this wall become closed, but when the right atrium relaxes, this Tibetan wall opens. Okay. Now in this diagram you can also see a line, small lines. These small lines represent small diameter veins. These are also coronary veins, but small diameter veins, and these veins are not connected with the coronary sinus. All the other veins are connected with the coronary sinus, but these veins are not connected with the coronary sinus. These are present all over the heart, also here in also in the ventricle area. I have not drawn over here, but it is also available in this area. And there is no wall in these veins. These veins opens directly into right atrium. There is no need of connection with the coronary sinus. These veins open directly into the right atrium of the heart. These veins open directly into the right atrium of the heart. These also drain the deoxygenated blood from various parts of the heart and opens directly into the right atrium. These veins are called Tibetan vein. Okay, Tibetan veins are the veins which are smaller in diameter, which are present all over the heart, and which drain the blood from various parts of the heart to the right atrium. Okay, for today this was sufficient. In the next lecture we will learn about